Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm from the Diva Bride. Today I want to share a very quick, very easy tutorial on how to make a starfish boutonniere for a beach or a summer wedding. So this is what we're going to be making today. These are the boutonnieres from my own wedding. I made them all myself, and as you can see, they're made from a real dried or preserved starfish with just a little bit of floral and ribbon accent. So I would say that if you are not a crafter, or if you are someone who wants to do a DIY project for your wedding, but are a little bit intimidated about where to start, this is a really easy project. You don't need any special tools, you don't need any special skills. This is really the easiest level of DIY, so it's something that anybody can do. So we're going to start with a starfish. You can find these pretty much anywhere. I always pick mine up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or Joann's, somewhere like that. They usually run about $3 at regular price, but if you shop at craft stores a lot, you know that you never pay full price for anything. Wait for them to go on sale. They usually go 50% off, or you can use a coupon. They all offer those like 40% off coupons on their websites. So you can pick these little guys up for just a couple of bucks each. So the first thing you want to do is look at your starfish, and as you can see, like the two that I have are both shaped a little bit differently. This one's a little bit bigger, and their arms kind of all curve or face in different directions. So you want to look at him and like rotate him around and decide which way you think it should face. And I actually think I had it right the first time. So you see that I have less room between these two legs, and these have more space, and this one kind of angles up. So I think this is the way that my starfish faces. But just kind of rotate yours around and see which way you think it should go. So I'm going to start by laying this guy face down, and I've covered my table with, I used like a tarp or some plastic because we're going to be using some hot glue, and you want to protect the work surface that you're using. Now I'm going to grab some ribbon, because we're going to be putting a little ribbon tab back on our starfish. That way it gives us a way to attach it or to pin it on. Every boutonniere needs a way to pin it on to a collar or to a lapel. And so we're going to be using a little ribbon tab for that today. So I'm going to start by cutting my ribbon, and I'm using ribbon that is 5/8 of an inch. You can use anything up to about probably 3/4 of an inch is as large as you would want to go for this. So I'm going to cut about 2 to 2.5 inches. And whenever you cut ribbon, you want to cut at a diagonal because that will help it to prevent fraying. All right, so I'm going to take one end of my ribbon, and I'm going to glue it kind of under, so on the back side, just underneath this top leg, because we want our tab to stick up just a little bit so we have a way to pin it on. So I'm going to put just a little bit of hot glue kind of right here in the middle of my starfish underneath the front leg or the top leg. Okay. So I'm going to glue just one end. So you see it looks like we've got way too much ribbon because it's hanging all the way up here. So we obviously don't need that much. But what I want to do is I want to give it a little bit of extra support by doubling that. So I'm going to make like a little loop. Okay. So I'm going to take my second end and just double it over and put a little more glue on top of that first end. So you can see that I'm putting another little daub of glue right here on top of that first piece of ribbon. And then I'm doubling it over so it makes a little loop. And of course, being very careful not to burn yourself. Oops, and I just did. All right, so you see now that we have a nice little looped back. And it goes right up behind that top leg of our starfish. And you can see that you can just barely see it. It just barely peeks out. And that is when we get ready to put it on. your groom or your groomsman or your officiant or whoever's wearing it. Whenever you get ready, you're going to take a little, I have a pearl tipped pin, and you'll just run it through this to pin it on to a jacket or to a shirt. Okay, so easy peasy, that's our first step. Now we're going to turn it over, so we're going to be working on the front side now. And so we want to give him a little bit of added interest. So when I was making these originally, I really toyed around with what kind of flowers. And I knew I wanted like a tropical, because these are really great for like a beach wedding, which is what I did, or a summer wedding. And really, to me, nothing says summer or the tropics or beaches like orchids. And so I went with these little tiny yellow and brown orchid flowers, because I didn't want like a big flower. I don't want something that's going to overwhelm the starfish, because I want the starfish to really be the center of attention. So I'm picking a really small flower. Okay. So you see I have this whole bunch. So I could make 2 dozen of these if I needed to, just off of one little thing of flowers. But I'm just going to cut, and I don't want a lot of stem. That stem is just going to get in the way. I just want a little bitty tiny bit. So I'm cutting pretty close to the flower here. Okay. So you can see I've left just a little bitty tiny bit of stem there. And now I'm just going to play around a little bit with where it looks best. Okay, and so I always like to put it right over the bottom, kind of this bottom left leg here. Okay, so again, I'm going to take just a little tiny drop of glue, and you really want to make sure you just use a little bitty bit of glue on this part, because unlike on our back where you couldn't really see it if you got too much, if you get too big of a blob on the front, you'll be able to see it, and there's really nothing you can do about it. Once it gets on there, you can't really pick it off from the starfish. So just a little tiny dab of glue. And this flower is really lightweight, so you don't need much. And so then I'm just sticking this in there. So what's going into the glue is the stem, that little bit of stem that I left, and also some of the petals. And that'll help it keep it down really well. Okay, so you can see it dries really quickly. So I've already got that little flower glued on there. Okay, so for our next step, we're going to make a little bow. So I've got some really thin ribbon, and this is 3/8 of an inch. So just a really thin ribbon, and I like to use one that's a little bit stiff because it will hold the shape of my bow really well. If you use like a satin or a silky kind of ribbon, it won't hold its shape very well. It'll be harder to tie, and it's just a lot harder to work with. So this nice stiff ribbon is much easier. So when I tie a bow, I always think this is the hardest part. So when I tie a bow, I leave my ribbon on the spool. I don't cut it off until I'm finished with my bow. Okay? And I don't tie a center knot. I just go ahead and start with the first loop. So I make a loop and then come around and tie my bow this way. And when I go ahead and leave it on the spool and tie it, that means that I can really play with these loops and adjust the size without wasting ribbon. Because if I cut it first, then I would have to really know how much exactly ribbon I would need, and I'm not great at that. So, but leaving it on the spool really lets me play with it and adjust it until I'm content. So I'm just kind of making these bows or these loops just the right size, just kind of pulling back and forth. Okay. And let's see. I want them to be a little bit fluffy. So I'm just kind of, and this nice stiff ribbon lets me do that. It lets me kind of play with the shape of each loop. Okay, so I've got it how I like it. I've got way too much on this end. So again, I'm going to come in here and cut diagonally. If I can do that. Just cut off all that extra. I don't need a lot of extra tails on my bow. Okay, so I cut off the extra on one end, and now I'm going to cut off the extra on this end, which will take it off of the spool. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of position this right at the edge of my flower so that the petals of my flower overlap the bow. Okay, so you can see I haven't stuck it on yet, but I've kind of got it so that the little petals of my orchid kind of overlap my bow. So as I've kind of practiced and figured out where to put it, I'm going to come and put just a little dot of glue kind of underneath those petals and make sure not to get it on the petals or accidentally glue those petals down. And it's okay if your bow is not very well tied or if it's not very tight, because since you're going to glue it down, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to loosen up. Okay. So I had glued my bow down, and my little petals kind of cover it up a little bit. Okay. Oops. And of course now I need to clean up all my little hot glue strings. It seems no matter how neat you are with hot glue, it gets a little stringy. All right. So there, we are already done. In less than about maybe 7 minutes, we've got a cute little Starfish Boutonniere for a summer or a beach wedding. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Head on over to thedivabride.com. I'll have step-by-step instructions for how to make these, as well as a complete materials list. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you at thedivabride.com.